Welcome, welcome. We get to paint our Ariel. Oh, so sweet. So, if you are not a huge Disney fan and you want to change her up or make her a different sister, you're welcome to change her hair color and or skin tone, whatever you would like. So, but I will guide you how to make this one exactly. So, just to go over the tools that you should have for our class today, you should have a wine glass that has a stem. If you want to paint this on a vase, that also works, but definitely you need something long because we got a long tail going on. So you definitely need something like that. Also, you need two different size brushes. You have your teeny tiny detail brush and a slightly bigger flat brush of some kind that we could go ahead and fill in the bigger areas and doesn't take us forever to do. Also, we need the following colors of enamel paint. So red, if you're going to make her hair red, yellow, white, green, blue, and just a little bit of black. And that's it. That's all you need. Also, I wanted to go over with you, if you have not painted on glass before, this paint actually needs to be cured to make sure that it does not come off over time. You're able to wash it and use it as you'd like. So the way that you cure it, you don't have to do it tonight. You could do it tomorrow or the next day. I just wouldn't wait longer than a week. So all you do is you stick it in your oven while the oven is still cold. I prefer to put it on a cookie sheet, makes it more stable. So you put it when the oven's still cold. You let it heat up with the oven until the oven hits 350. Once it hits 350, you go ahead and time it for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, you turn it off and you leave the door closed. Do not open the door for any reason whatsoever. And then once it is completely cooled down with the oven, and then you can take it out. So I like to do it at night because I don't have to guess if it's cooled down or not. Just an easy way to do it. But anyway, so that's what you need to do with your glass once you are done. It has to be cured. If you need written instructions, please reach out to me. You could email me directly, nicole@splashartclass.com, or you could reach out to us on our website. Let's get started. All right, so I'm going to take my glass, and the first thing that we're going to start on is her tail. So I'm going to take my teeny tiny brush, and I'm going to dip it in the green. So then I'm going to find just right where it starts to curve, right? So not the middle of my glass, but right where it starts to curve, I'm going to make a dot. So a little dot, just like that. You can see it right where it starts to curve in. From there, I'm going to make kind of a curved V. So I'm going to show you first. I start at my dot. I'm going to curve out to the right and I curve out to the left. Just like that. Kind of looks like a bird. So now keep in mind, if her bottom is a little bigger or a little smaller, we don't judge, right? However you want. So it's very forgiving in that way. If you have a little bit of a bigger bottom, it's all good. Or maybe, all right, so we have our dot and we did a slight curve to the left, slight curve to the right. So it's kind of like a wide V. So from there, I'm going to connect them with a nice big scoop. So it's going to be a nice big U. So one side all the way to the left side. Here we go. This is my mermaid booty. Here we go. Just like that. You can always make it bigger later if you want, or smaller. So before we even get too far into it, I just also want to go over, if you make any kind of oops or mistake, it's very easy to fix it on glass. You just rip off a little piece of your paper towel, you dip it in the water, you squeeze it out so it's just damp, and you just wipe it right off. So really easy to fix any kind of oops. So this is your beginning of her bottom. So we're not going to fill it in quite yet. So from there, I'm going to start the very middle of the bottom, that U that I just put in, and I'm going to go straight down to the very bottom of my glass. So all the way down to the bottom right there. So I didn't go all the way down to the tip, but just all the way to the bottom right there. Then once you get down to the bottom right over here, we are going to put in her fins. these guys. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, different styles. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here at the dot, right where I ended, and I'm going to do a little curve to a point on the right and a curve to a point on the left. I started right where my line ended, and I did a little bump, and I swerved out. And then from there, I'm just going to start at the little point. We're at the very end right here, and I'm just going to scoop it right back. Scoop, and scoop it back on the other side. Just like that. So we have her little butt kind of outlined, the line going straight down, and her little fins. So from there, to connect our butt to the rest of her tail, a little smoother than just this line, I'm going to curve my connection to it. So right as your butt is curving down, I'm going to do a little scoop into the line, just like this. So a little scoop in. So right as it turns, I'm going to scoop it in on either side. So now is the easy part. So now we're just filling it in and thickening it up. So I'm going to make her tail, of course, wider than just that little thin line. And I'm going to fill in her butt to my liking. So first layer. So the other thing about this paint is you actually need to paint in layers. So the first layer you'll notice is pretty transparent, right? So we're definitely gonna have to do another layer. And the way that you know you could do another layer is when it is sticky. We're just gonna put on the first layer now, and we'll go back and do another layer. So I'm filling it in with my small brush, just because I'm trying to get a little bit more detailed with it. And you're gonna fill in the fin. Once we are done putting in at least our first layer of green, now we're going to jump to her hair, her flowy hair. So I'm going to take my teeny tiny brush, I'm going to dip it in the red. And now I'm going to find the top center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this original middle dot that we did at the very beginning. I'm going to work my way up my glass and then see how close it is to the top. So I'm going to stop right there at the top. So let me move it around so I can get there in the middle. Ooh, right there. So that's how high her head is going to be. So from that dot, I'm going to make a circle. So that's going to be the top of the circle. So this circle is going to be her head, and it's about the size of like a quarter. All right, so we made a circle. I'm not worried about filling it in yet. We're just doing the main shape. So then from there, notice how her hair is kind of whooshed to the side, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come halfway down the right side of my circle, and that's where I'm going to start my little scoop at a diagonal, right? So I'm going to start here about halfway down on the right side, and I'm going to scoop around and flick it out to the left, just like that. So halfway down the circle, I scooped it around and then flicked it out to the left. Okay, and then from there, I'm just going to connect now the left side. So I'm going to come down a little bit further on the left side, and then I'm also going to bring it out to a little curve. So I came down a little bit further on the left side, and I kind of brought it down to meet it. So now I'm going to go ahead and fill it in, and then keep in mind you can make it longer, you could add more hair later if you want, up to you, but this is our first layer of her hair, her gorgeous red hair. I'm just filling it in, and of course that's just the first layer. We'll have to definitely do more. So when you're done with the hair, then you're going to go back to your tail and do a second layer. All right, so we are going to move on to her body. So we just did a second layer on her tail. We did the first layer of her hair. Now we're going to move to her body. So to make her skin tone the way that this is, so it's a lighter skin tone, I just mixed a little bit of yellow and a dot of red. So it's kind of like a light orange. and then I mixed it with some white. So I'm using my small brush. I have my skin tone all ready to rock and roll. And the first thing we got to do is put in her little cinched waist. So you're going to start at both points of where we did our original kind of curved V at the beginning. So from there, I'm going to do it on the left. I'm going to do a diagonal going towards the right. So diagonal up. And on the right side, I'm going to go diagonal up towards the left. She has a little cinched waist coming in. Then from there, I'm going to do a diagonal going the opposite direction. So on the right, I'm going to start where I ended my hip. I'm going to go diagonal up towards the right. And on the left, it's going to diagonal up towards the left. Just like that. So in, out, just like. So from there, we got to put in her little, her little attitude arm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at her hip, okay, where her hand is resting. And I'm going to do a diagonal going out towards the right, and then right back in towards the head. So it's going to be like a diamond I just created. So I'm right here at the end. I did diagonal going out and up towards the right, and then back in. So from there, I'm going to put her little hand that's sitting on her waist. So it's just a flick down. So from here, it's going to go down a diagonal to the right, just like that, little flick right there. And then the arm on the left side is actually going to be, a lot of it's hidden from the hair, right? So we're just going to do the bottom portion of her arm. So I just have to do a diagonal coming down, just like that. And then the other hand flicking out towards the left. So this is what you should have so far. Before we fill in the body, I want to go over how to thicken up the arms, because you don't want all the arms to be just one big thick like piece. Ugh, right? We want to have some kind of shape. So what we're going to do is you want the top of her arm. So working with the right side first, notice you want the top part of the arm to be thicker than where the elbow is. So I'm going to thicken up. I'm going to go down just a little bit and bring it down to the elbow. So just like this. I came down the body just a little bit, and then I brought it right to the elbow. And then I'm going to fill that in. And then this bottom part, her forearm, is just slightly thicker at the elbow, just slightly. So make sure thicker at the top than when it comes down to the elbow, and then just slightly thicker at the elbow, and then bring it down to a point for the arm. And then the one on the left is just slightly thicker at the top, just like that. So now we're going to go ahead and fill in the body with our skin tone. And if you get some on the hair, it's not a big deal. We'll go back. And now also when you're filling in her back, if you want, you could kind of smooth out where her hip goes in so it's not so sharp. Just kind of round it a little bit more. And notice I lean my pinky on my glass. That helps me a lot to stay stable. We're getting there. So when you're done filling in her body, now you could go back and do another layer of her hair color. And even then, we're not going to be done with the hair. We got to add different tones. We got to be fancy. Can't just leave it straight red. There we go. Ooh, my girl's a little bigger than the last girl. That's okay. Whatever. It's all good. 'Tis the season. So we're going to come back down to her tail, and we're going to add all these cool little details. So we're going to take our little brush. We're going to dip it in the black. And we're first going to outline just the top part of the tail. So just where we did that V. I'm going to lightly put in that V. And then I'm going to outline just where her side bottom is. So you be careful to really be very light with your touch so you have a nice thin line. All right, so from there, notice all these little scales. Ugh. So you don't have to put them all in. I have them mainly concentrated around her butt area, and then as I get down further, if you notice, I just kind of give the idea that there's scales all the way down. So I just do like 2, and then I skip, and then I do another 2, and I skip. So all it is they're just these little scoops, like these little U's. So I'm going to start here at the top. I'm going to be on the left side. I'm just going to do a little scoop. It's going to look just like this, just a bunch of U's, and then they kind of overlap. So we're going to go ahead and just lightly put them in. You could just do the idea of it. You don't have to do every single one. So as I get further down, I'm not being as clumped together or as detailed. And we're going all the way down the tail. Now coming down the tail, this longer part, right, that's below her bottom, you do not need to outline the whole thing, right? So I'm just going to lightly pull it through on the side. So when I say that, it just means that it's not a solid line. So I'm just kind of pulling just a few strokes of the black on the left side and the right side of her tail. And the scales go all the way down to her fins. Now you don't have to put the scales on the fin. If you want, you can just kind of do those diagonal lines on the fin. It's totally up to you which way you want to go with that. This is your mermaid, you do you. Okay, so if you want to get fancy, I just mix some green and black together. And just along the 2 sides of her butt, I just kind of blended in just a little bit of that dark green on the top points of her bottom. So I pulled it through this corner and around and pulled it on the other corner and around. So it's just something a little extra. You don't have to do it. It looks good either way. And then I'm just kind of pulling it through the rest of my tail just every so often, a little bit of that darker tone. Just to be fancy. So when you are done with that, you could go back to her skin tone and do her second layer of skin tone. All right, so we're going to go back to her hair. We're going to get a little fancy now. We're going to add some darker tones. So because I used red, I'm going to mix just a little bit of red with some black, but be careful because black is so strong. So I just have a darker tone, and I'm going to start pulling it around, kind of curving it around the top of her head. So I'm going to start at the top. I'm just kind of wispy with my stroke. So I curved it around and in, and I'm just kind of flicking it down, going around her head. So just be really kind of free with your strokes. It just adds this kind of darker tone. And then I'm just going to pull it through the length of her hair. So just kind of have like some wavy lines in there. So we are giving her some low lights. If you went too dark, of course, you could add some more red back in. All right, so notice how you could see the water coming through the glass. How cool is that? So it's actually all along the back, but you see it in the front. Super cool. That's one of the fun things about wine glasses. So I'm going to take my big brush, and notice how the strokes are all kind of like wavy, but they kind of leave a little bit of a space from the top, right? So you have some long ones and short ones, but you still have some space at the top. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my big brush, I'm going to dip some in the blue and some in the white, and I'm not even going to mix it perfectly. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it upside down. That's just a lot easier. And starting in the back, I'm just going to start doing these little wiggly lines, just like that, until I fill this whole thing in. So it's going to get really close to her, The ones that are super close are just going to kind of curve in right next to her, but they're not going to touch her. And there's the blue is only going to touch her right when you get down to the base, right? So it's going to be on the back of the stem, but just down at the base is where it's actually touching her tail. Besides that, it's not touching her at all. And of course, we'll have to do another layer. Keep you guys busy tonight. This is the easy part, right? We're just putting in water, just wiggly lines. You can't really go wrong with this one. So remember the whole back of the stem. And if you want, you can mix just a dot of green with your blue and white mix, and that'll make it kind of like a teal color. Just a bunch of different tones in there. You're gonna have some teal, you'll have some blue, you'll have some light blue. You can always check it and see if you want to add more. So then once I'm done doing the back, then I'm going to place it down flat, so that way I'm able to do this whole base section where her fin is. So it's coming right up to her fin. It's going to be in between the opening of her fin on the bottom as well. So remember, right when it's sticky, you could go ahead and put on that second layer. Or if you like the transparent look because it's water, that's cool too. She has one step left, unless of course you want to leave her without a top on. That is of course your choice. So, but I'm going to put a little top on my mermaid. She has her little bikini on. So I'm going to go to my teeny tiny brush. You can pick whatever color you want. This one right here is purple. So it's just mixing a little bit of blue and a little bit of red together. I have my teeny tiny brush. All it is, it's going to go straight across her body, starting just a little bit below her armpit. So turn this around so I can put it on. And then all you need to do is you put little flicks going down from the center. So I'm going to the middle, and I'm going to do a little upside down V, so a little flick going to the left and a flick going to the right. Just like that. So this one I had more hair coming down, this one I have less. Meh. Whatever you want, this is your mermaid. So you could add more hair, you can make her smaller, bigger. If you make a little mistake on her body that you're realizing now, so it's not going to come off with a little bit of water, you can take a little toothpick and scrape it off as well for some of those like little detailed areas if you want to kind of shave a few pounds off, if only it was that easy. So, but for this it is. So that's one way you could fix it if there is any kind of oops like that. But this is really it. You are done with your Ariel painting when you are done putting on your layers. That is it. Thanks so much for joining us today to paint our Ariel. Remember to cure it. Also, I would love to see your finished products. Please, please tag us on Instagram or Facebook, whatever you are on. It's hashtag #SplashArtClass, @SplashArtClass. I would love to see your finished products. Also, always remember to check back online. We're always adding new classes constantly. And if you miss any classes, we're always putting them on demand as well. So you have a bunch of options to paint and to do. So enjoy your painting.